Yo, what is up guys, Ghost here, welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be checking out Stormgate's newest update, update 0.5. This one, unlike the last one, 0.4, which was all about the campaign, this one is mainly concentrating on the 1 versus 1 mode, which has really been entirely revamped with the introduction of, well, Stormgates. Now there is a bunch of new stuff to go over in this patch. Not only do we have the Stormgates, but of course they've removed creep camps from the game. They've taken away the top bars that used to be there for the various abilities. They've added a new Skirmish Mode versus AI. They've added a new feature called Move Line to Drag. There's some campaign changes. There's a lot of balance changes. So without further ado, if you guys enjoy the content here on the channel, make sure you are subscribed to stay up to date with everything Stormgate. And as always, thank you guys so much for the support. Couldn't do it without you. Okay, so let's just start with the biggest change in this patch here, and that is going to be the Stormgates themselves. Really the major change that has shaken up the 1 versus 1 mode. So these are available at the moment on 3 maps. First of all, the new map, Edge of Oblivion, and then we've got Boneyard, and then finally Broken Crown. And these are the 3 maps that are currently featured in the ladder. So if you queue up, this is what you're going to be playing now, but all of the older maps are still available with the old creep camp system if you wish to play those via custom games. They've also updated the maps with a new day-night cycle, and the Stormgates themselves actually only spawn in at night time, so as day turns to night, you can expect to see one of them popping up. And the way this works is that the Stormgate will spawn at a random location. I think there's 5 of them on the new map here. I'm not sure how many there are on the other maps, haven't done too much testing yet. And the first one will be tier 1, the second Stormgate is tier 2, and all other Stormgates after that will then be tier 3. And capturing a Stormgate grants you powerful units and relics that you can use for your faction. So it'll be announced when a Stormgate opens up, you jump on the Stormgate, you do your best to deal the maximum amount of damage to the Stormgate that you can, and if it gets sort of destroyed, for lack of a better word, you're not really destroying it, you're sort of opening it, I guess, then you reap those rewards. If you don't deal enough damage to it, it just shuts down and nobody gets anything. So there are 3 outcomes here. Either you get rewards, your enemy gets rewards, or nobody gets anything. So just to give you guys an idea, here are some of the tier 1 rewards. So there are 5 different ones here, and you will get 3 to choose from, chosen at random, and then you can choose one of those 3. So we've got the Faerun here, a ranged creature adept at healing. Then we've got the Creeping Horror, a ranged creature adept at slowing enemy units with its attacks. We've also got Relics, so these are like one-time use abilities. You can use Dark Creation to create copies of friendly units here with the Soulforge relic, and then for example the Shadow Mark can use mark structures to permanently increase construction speed, production speed, and the recharge rate of structures in a certain area. So you might also of course want to think about like the SimCity there of your base building if that's like an AoE effect. Then coming in at tier 2 here, you've got stuff like the Cosmic Drifter, a flying creature adept at transporting units, and it's capable of holding twice as much cargo as a regular transport, so your evac and what have you. You can get 4 Skyhunter units, ranged creatures adept at stunning and destroying air units with its attacks. You've got Void Prowlers, deadly melee creatures can use the Shadow Shift to scale cliffs or close distances, so that's kind of like a little bit of a, Reaper-like unit, I suppose, there. And there are 7 of these tier 2 rewards, so these are going to be a little bit more randomized. And then finally we have 5 tier 3 rewards, and the one I got in my game that I was trying out here was the Swarm Mother. This says slow moving creature adept at relentless assault can use spew offspring to spawn groups of swarmlings that have a timed life duration. So the Swarm Mother is like this slow lummoxing sort of Neanderthal-esque creature. Like it says in the description here, you spawn these little offspring and they basically just swarm at the enemy and kind of go ham on them. There are also some interesting relics. So one is called Stormcaller, creates a dimensional storm which damages enemies' units passing through its spiraling vortex. So this is presumably going to be like an AoE targetable ability. Then we've got Power Stone, can use Imbue Avatar on a target-friendly unit to permanently increase its max health, attack speed, and energy regeneration. They've also added some healing stations around the map here, so whilst they have removed the old creep camps and like there was no speed camps and stuff like that, there are still ways for you to heal out on the battlefield, right? So it's not just about controlling the Stormgates, and you don't really know where they're going to spawn. So you're constantly playing this guessing game. Where do you want to position your army? Do you want to keep it around the middle so that you can retroactively, respond to wherever the Stormgate spawns? Maybe it will even be in the middle. Or do you want to go to one side of the map? Do you want to split your army, maybe so you can start attacking it wherever it is, and then have the other half of your army join up with the second half? All of these are interesting options here, tactical options that have now been introduced with the system. And similarly, when it comes to the enemy engaging with the Stormgate, what do you want to do there? Do you want to counteract the enemy, maybe go for their base? Do you want to try to deal damage to the Stormgate yourself? Maybe while they're dealing damage to the Stormgate, you go for their units, right? So I do think it changes up and the game and makes for some very interesting interactions that we didn't really see so much with the creep camp system. Now, there are a couple of comeback mechanics here as well. So let's say the enemy ends up capturing more Stormgates than you. You will get 50% increased damage against Stormgates for each fewer Stormgate captured versus your opponent. So if your opponent has captured, let's say, 2 Stormgates from the beginning of the game and you don't have any, then you will do 100% increased damage against the 3rd Stormgate that spawns in. You also get 1 bonus vision radius around the Stormgates that is granted or removed for the difference in Stormgates captured. Now, I've only really dipped my toe in here. I've not played too many games, so it's not clear how this is going to affect the meta in the long run, but I can already see that this is just a much more exciting thing, like unique activity really, to base the game around, because that kind of was the unique drawing point of Stormgate as an RTS, right? That was really the thing setting it apart from, let's say, StarCraft, was the creep camps. They wanted to get you, out in the game doing stuff early on. And I think Stormgates accomplish that same goal. They do spawn fairly early on, so I believe it's 3 minutes and 30 seconds into the game, and then every 3 minutes and 30 seconds after that, you're going to get an additional one there. So it is going to encourage you to get out on the map. You can't really just turtle. Well, I guess you can, but who knows what the enemy's going to get from these Stormgates. Now, they've also decided to remove all of the top bar abilities from the top of the screen and roll them into the various command structures. So this is what they say: top bars have always had a unique place in Stormgate, but ultimately we felt they occupied too much UI space relative to their gameplay impact. For new players in particular, they contributed to a sense of overwhelmingness and hindered the game's overall approachability. As a result, we've reallocated many top bar abilities to other areas within each faction, aiming to create a more streamlined experience. So all of the abilities that we had before in the top bar, those are still there. They've just been rolled into the command structure, so you can now find them on the Arc ship, the Shrine, and the command post, etc. Now, some other nice little quality of life changes here. First of all, they've added custom game lobby chat. Now, this sounds like the most simplistic of functions, and this is 100% something you would expect to be in any RTS game. It's just now been added to custom games, so I know nobody's going to be exactly giving them a standing ovation for this, but it is nice to see it finally in the game, so you don't have to use Discord chat to set up, lobbies and stuff like that. Obviously, I would like to see them take this much further and have some sort of an in-game chat when you're in the main menus, right? So different chat channels, if you're looking for people to help you learn the game, or maybe you want to teach people, whatever it is, you've got different chat channels there that you can talk to people and discuss them. I mean, this has been in StarCraft and Warcraft for literally decades, so for it not to be in Stormgate is a massive miss. But obviously the game is not in 1.0 yet, so I'm sure they have to be planning that in the future. I mean, it's a given, I think. They've also made some nice changes, sort of similar to that in the replay system, so now you can see player names, teams, factions, whether it was a victory or a defeat. You can see map images. Obviously, again, like pretty rudimentary stuff that you'd expect to be there, but it is nevertheless nice to see it getting added over time. Then they've got a new Skirmish Mode versus AI, and I was actually incorrect in my previous video for anybody who watched that one. I assumed it was maybe going to allow you to team up with somebody against AI, so maybe you could like invite a friend, play against AI like that. This is actually only 1 versus AI. So what it is essentially a quicker way to get you into the action. You just pick your race, you pick the difficulty and the race of the AI, and then you press launch game, right? So you don't have to like make a custom game and go through the whole rigmarole of setting it up that way. Clearly, Stormgate is striving to attract more casual players, so I do think this is an important thing to have in the game, but I would like to see them add, 2 versus AI, 3 or 4 versus AI, so that you can invite your friends along and learn the game that way. However, one of the most interesting new features that I've already seen in other games before, like Zero Space, and I believe it exists in more modern RTS games these days as well, and that is this move line drag feature. So you do have to go into the options and enable this under gameplay, but once you've done that, you basically just hold right click, draw a line, and whichever units are selected, it's going to spread them out along that line. And it works really, really well. You can see I've experimented a little bit with it here. I just kind of messed around with my servos here at the beginning of the game, so there's not too many of them. But you can imagine once you've got like a bunch of units and you want to really spread them out quickly, this is going to allow you to do that without needing like, 400 AVM. Now, as with the last couple of updates, this time around we've of course got some new artwork. So for the Vanguard, we've got the new Sentinel unit, which is like one of the casting units, and we have the Helicarrier, which is kind of like the big tier 3 air unit here. Those have been redone. I've already shown these off in videos before. We've seen them of course on Behemoth's channel as well, but here they are in game with sort of all the graphics maxed out and everything, so you guys can see, well, there's YouTube compression on there, but as good as possible what they look like. We've also got new command post, central command and high command for the Vanguard here, and then a new machine lab as well. Overall, I think they're improvements. I think with the Vanguard especially, it's not going to look right until all of the buildings and the units have had the same treatment, because now it's sort of like these two mismatched aesthetic choices intertwined with one another, and it's a little bit juxtaposed. It's a little bit strange, so I think we are going to have to wait and see what everything looks like together. But then when we come across to the Infernals here, much more of their buildings have now been changed. So we have the Tribute Pyre, which replaces the Meat Farm. We've also got a brand new Iron Vault, which is that huge spinny cube thingy, which I think looks really cool. We've got a Conclave, new Conclave. The Ritual Chamber has also been slightly redone. The Blood Tree is now replacing the Shadow Cleft, so that was one of the research buildings. And we have a new Shroud Stone, which is kind of interesting. It is actually like a much larger stone statue now, and it spins around as it fires, so you can sort of like see which direction it was actually aiming and firing at, each time it stops, which is, kind of a nice touch here. So I think the overall look and feel for the Infernals is really starting to come along. They do feel much more demonic in nature now and less, I suppose, slimy almost. I do think they had a bit of this kind of ooga booga, me smash you with club feeling to the old brutes. Now it's like they've almost got like an IQ level up. So yeah, overall I'm definitely feeling the new art changes here. They do have a little excerpt here from the patch notes called Looking Ahead, by the way, and it says, beyond refining the Stormgate system, we'll be turning our attention to the Celestial faction. A full design pass is underway, focused on reducing mechanical confusion while preserving their identity as a highly mobile and adaptable faction. We can't wait to hear your feedback as you dive into patch 0.5. See you in the storm. So for anybody wondering, is there going to be any changes to Celestials? Yes, absolutely. It's just that for the time being, they've decided to focus on the Vanguard and the Infernals. So overall, I think this is a great patch. More important steps here in the right direction. Again though, definitely a long way from being a finished game. It depends what kind of player you are. Like normally I say in these videos, now's a great time to come back to Stormgate and check it out if you weren't happy with the game before, but I would say in this situation it wholly depends on what sort of player you are. If you're looking for more campaign stuff, well, there's not really too many changes here. They have made a little, few tweaks to it and stuff like that with the dialogue and some of the tutorial stuff, but nothing major. And then, of course, co-op mode has been somewhat put on hold for the time being whilst they do the art overhaul for all of the three factions and they really try to sort out the campaign and get that where they want it to be. So, if you're like a more single-player oriented type of person, then it might not be something you want to come back to right now. You may want to wait until a few more updates have come out in the future, if not 1.0. But if you're somebody who has enjoyed the 1 versus 1 in the past, then I strongly urge you to come back and give it a go, jump back on the ladder and, play some games against people. Because Lord knows, we need more people on the ladder. One of the problems I'm having with the game is that I want to play the versus mode, but with so few players online, I just know that 99% of them are people who are still there and have stuck with the game day in, day out, playing it all the time. So it's very difficult to get a fair game on the ladder when there are just so few players to go at. And so in a way, I find that sort of almost discourages me from like wanting to go on the ladder and play, because I know it's just going to be such a difficult time, and it's not going to be very conducive to me actually learning the game, especially after so many huge sweeping changes. And, you know, comment down below, guys, and let me know if that's sort of where you are with the game at the moment. You know, that's sort of how I feel about it. Like, I'm playing the game, I'm sort of keeping an eye on it, but I'm still very reluctant to get stuck in, because the ladder just sort of scares me a little bit. I don't know, maybe it's just ladder anxiety, maybe, you know, in some way these RTS games always make you feel like that. I definitely think they do, like there is definitely some anxiety that's driven from that. But, you know, chime in down below, let me know what you think about the game. Are you going to come back and give this a go in 1 versus 1? And just let me know what you think about the changes overall here. As always, thank you guys so much for watching today's video. Don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date with everything Stormgate, as well as other RTS titles. And I will see you guys in the next video.